Everybody, today what we're going to be going over is how can I take notes in history class, especially with Professor Sullivan. Now, for those of you that are taking class in person, and also for those of you that are taking class online, you'll notice that my lecture slides are extremely detailed. They have a lot of information, and quite literally, they could be used as a textbook. Now, the reason I had made them as such was so that way they could serve as your notes. However, a great question that I've had over the past several semesters is what in particular do I need to write down? What do I need to memorize? Now, as we go throughout the slides, you will notice that there will be several terms that are in bold, and those terms that are in bold are going to be the main points that you want to focus on when taking your notes. You don't really necessarily need to take notes over everything else. It's really just those bolded terms. Now, there are several of them. I'm not going to bring up one in particular, but anyways, as you're writing your notes, this is how I recommend you approach it. So if we come up to one of those bolded terms within class, you should write down in your notes the bolded term, whether it's through a bullet point, through a number, or whatever the case may be. Now, once you've written down the term, wait for me to state the definition. Now, typically within the lecture slides, a lot of the terms will have definition, or a lot of the bolded terms will have definitions. However, other times they won't. But anyways, wait for my definition, and then you'll write shortly afterwards the definition for that term. Okay. From there, what else should I include in my notes whenever Professor Sullivan's discussing a particular term? You don't have to jot down everything I say about that term. As mentioned, jot down the definition, but put down a little bit of other information, perhaps what period it was used in, as well as what particular event it might have been describing, and so on and so forth. And that's typically how you want to structure your notes, especially in a history class, because it can be overwhelming with the amount of material that I go over if you were to try to jot down every single thing that I say. Now, on top of terms, there will be times in class as well as online that I'm going to point out something in particular that you must remember, say a particular event. Now, when we come across a particular event, similarly to the terms, if I say this election's important or this war's important, write down the obviously the name of the event, and then just describe a little bit of details, the cause and effects, as well as other information that you might find relevant. And that's really the big things that you want to take note of, especially when we talk about several events. As mentioned before, not every single event you're going to need to memorize for the day of the exam. However, as mentioned before, I will tell you what events will be significant, what caused them, what was their effects, and everything associated with that. But anyways, that's basically how you should take your notes within a history class. Like I said before, you don't necessarily need to write it in this fashion if you're one of those glorified note takers and you prefer to jot down your notes and write down everything I say. That's perfectly fine, whatever works best for you. But for those of you that feel overwhelmed with the materials within the slides, this is just a simple format on how you should take your notes within history class.